Hello, hello. Thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi, and this is the Thursday night, and I will do the Sashiko stitching while I talk about Sashiko. This is the live streaming where I talk about Sashiko and do stitching. So it's not a tutorial, it's not a lecture. It is just a place for us to stitch together while talking about Sashiko. Let me check the. Okay, the mic is good. A little bit soft. Probably a little bit soft, but I don't know how to make it bigger, so sorry about that. Oh, the announcement. One announcement. Come on. Just a second, okay? So today is the kind of official day to start this Sashiko Gathering, which I try to I have been trying to have last 3 years. With the help of Michael, I am planning this monthly live streaming, and this is her website. And I think that no, I don't. There's a link to her webpage. It's pretty much the live streaming with both interactions. Here in this live streaming, I am the one who mainly talk. In this gathering, you will have a chance to talk. It's gonna be on the Zoom, so you don't have to show your face, so you don't have to do. There's no requirement for that. Anybody can come, no fees for that. I just need to know who will come to that place. So please check that. If you have not done yet, please check the website and then register yourself if you're interested in that. This will be probably every month in not probably. I will try to make this Sashiko Gathering on Thursday night after this live streaming once a month. I will try to see when would be a good time, but it is easier for us to have that right after this live streaming. So I'm sorry that it's for those who cannot come to this live streaming due to the time difference, but I hope you can join that as well. All right. Okay, I will change the. What was I gonna do? Yeah, there we go. Oof. So I went to the. I always try to procrastinate the physical check for my health, and I had to go today to get some medication. And yeah, I have not been to the hospital for a long time. And then they asked me like, would you like to have a flu shot? And then I think my mind is like always yes to the shot right now because of the COVID and everything. And I got a flu shot without even thinking about it. That's a very bad thing, but I took a flu shot today. I usually take a flu shot. I completely forgot that I get kind of drowsy after the shot. So today I might not be the 100% sharp. So if I say something stupid, ignore that. Hello, Lily-san. That's the Lily who used one needle for 4 years. Was it 4 years? I thought that was 5 years. Probably 4 years. You can hear me, right? No, I checked that, so you can hear you. Yeah. Hello, 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 hello. Today I'm not really 100%. My brain is kind of foggy. I cannot believe that what I was thinking. It's gonna be very, very busy weekend, yet I cannot believe that what was I thinking? I hope you're doing fine too. It's September already. Oh my, September. I brought the topic. I just add the topic right before this live streaming. I actually switched the live streaming's topic today, so it's not anymore about how does it mean by reading between the lines, but I brought the topic. No rules does not mean whatever. I will talk about it a little later. But yeah, as Sharon said, some Japanese people can do a lot of crazy things. I often receive a question, how long does your needle last? And my answer usually is that I usually change that every 3 months. Consider that the fact that I stitch a few hours every day. So it's a lot, it's a long time. It's many, many hours of stitching that this one needle can do. But usually not more than a year. Not that because the needle get dull so easily, but needle get bend. If the needle is not straight, that's not really ideal way ideal needle to ideal needle to stitch. So, but some people can do that. Even that, I think Lily-san asked me if it's possible to keep using it. I think I told. So yes, our needle is very good. So if you would like to keep using it for 4 years, that has been proved that it's possible. But usually a few months, half year, it's really up to. It also depends on the condition that you're using. I'm not talking about the car, but it sounds like the car, like engine filter, but it is more like a needle. And if you're gonna stitch on the denim a lot, then your life, huh? The needle's life will be shorter. The needles are not designed for the stitching on the denim because it's not a orthodox way to enjoy sashiko stitching. We did not do much stitching on the denims, so the needles are not really designed to stitch on the denim. So if one stitch on the denim a lot, then needle will get a shorter terms lifespan. So, but it's not gonna be like a few days, or unless you do something crazy, like trying to stitch on the something harder than denim or canvas. Canvas might be possibility. Leather or something very, very hard. The needle should be good. Oof. It's gonna be long night for me, and probably many people. If you're gonna join the gathering after this, it's gonna be like almost 4 hours together. So that's gonna be a very big night. But I'm quite happy how this is going because it, the language we use tonight after this live streaming in the gathering is English. So we will talk like this in English. The goal is to sort of share or even talk about the Japanese culture together. So, of course, English, I mean, if I make a Japanese as a requirement, not many people can come. So, English is the requirement. But at the same time, I want the Japanese people to know what's going on. And many Japanese people will join that as well. I wouldn't say many, but one third of the people who sign up for today, which I don't know if they're gonna come to all of those that gonna come, but they are Japanese, and they probably say that they don't speak English, and they do not probably speak English as fluent as the regular English speaker, but they do know the basic word. They just don't know how to express it or how to understand it in the speed of the conversation. I think, 100%, like anybody who went through the Japanese education system had to go through the English, either good or bad. So it's probably possible to make the gathering somewhat Japanese-ish. And it's up to Maiko-san to handle it. So let's see how she can do that. But it is not the best time to join. So I'll see what I can do for the others too. There's so many. Oh, please take it as a complaint, sort of like whining, or yeah, whining is probably the best way to explain that. But it is getting worse and worse every day. Or, in another word, the speed of me sharing the Sashiko stories are not as fast as the others. I think it's plural. Others talking or teaching or sharing what Sashiko is. So the opportunities I come across to somebody who think they know about Sashiko with completely lack of information are more often. They don't really try to fight, I guess. But I usually do not try to look through those things because I will get either frustrated or sad, or it's not really positive thing to do. But there was a discussion about the hoop on Sashiko, right? Hoop, those embroidery hoop. I do have it here. There's nothing wrong with using it, but I don't know any Sashiko artisans, like the way we call Sashiko artisans. We have to define that later, but the Sashiko artisans I respect, let's say that the Sashiko artisans I respect, they do not use the hoop. But the comments were saying there's no rules in Sashiko, so you should be able to use that, or why not to use it? Well, there are so many stories, so many reasons that we don't use the hoop. So probably in the future, some people will teach Sashiko or say Sashiko, spread the information that Sashiko requires hoop. Then the question is, what is the difference between the Sashiko and the other embroidery if the goal is to just make one stitch or patterns? So it is very much simplified yet romanticized. That's the scary part. Sashiko has been romanticized, that's what we have to agree on, but at the same time it has been simplified, oversimplified. Sashiko is very simple and anybody can do that, but it's not shallow. So simplify as the making it so shallow that they think that they can understand it within like a few minutes. Sharon, yes, you cannot load the needles with multiple stitches if you're using the hoop. Yes, so it is just when we decided to use, when we use the hoop, that's sort of focusing on one stitch. There's nothing wrong with using the hoop and focusing on one stitch, Many embroidery art are based on the making one stitch, but that's not what Sashiko is for us. Sashiko is not about making one perfect stitch. So that is already mistaken. And if they can enjoy Sashiko without a hoop, then decided to use it, that's perfectly fine. But if they can only stitch with the hoop and then still saying that Sashiko requires a hoop, then that's already a big transition. It's gonna be a long journey. I was doing the exactly same thing. I have been doing this for the last 3 or 4 years, and it was not like this. And there are very nice people, very well aware the people who comments that using the hoop is not Sashiko, and then those people who try to ignore those words get defensive, and then they start saying that, like, how could you interrupt my happiness? How could you say those things to stop my happiness because I'm enjoying Sashiko the way I want? And that's very true statement. But at the same time, they are destroying the culture behind it. So no rules is very true because there are so many rules to follow. As the result, there is no one specific rules to follow to call it Sashiko. But it does not mean that whatever is fine. And there's a big misunderstanding there that some people think that whatever is really fine. And how do I fight that? I don't think I have to fight it, but I think that's what I have to go through. And I think my voice is not fast enough, or strong enough, or loud enough, or too late. Which none of those are true, but at least that's the feeling I get. So, well, but there's nothing I can do more. Like, this is something I have to keep doing it. Share, teach one by one, increase the people who know what's going on in Sashiko, who can do things. Not those who think that they know, but the Sashiko people, the people who like Sashiko, who can do what the Japanese people do, while knowing that it might not be enough. So it's kind of opposite of the current trend. Some people think that they know about Sashiko, but they cannot really do what we do. But they think that they know enough to teach. What I like to do is to increase those people who think that they can, they understand that it is very almost impossible to learn the full picture of Sashiko because it's foreign culture developed in the foreign language. But at the same time, technique, style, what else? The practice itself can be learned. Anybody can learn the practice, and that's what I'm teaching. So little by little, one by one. And I don't want to, I would like to know who I'm teaching to too. I would like to befriend so that, yeah, so that I know that they're enjoying it as well. Sorry. Do I get cough after flu shot? It's so weird. I know that it's a myth. It's not true that we get sick after the flu shot, but I feel like that. It's so scary. Ah, just a second. Is it on? It's on, right? Okay. I'm getting bored with this pattern. But again, this is something I gotta do. Did I explain? Well, I probably explained somewhere why I'm doing this, but the current trend of Sashiko is about the patterns, right? Like how to make a beautiful patterns with each stitches, and that's why they decide to use the loop or hoop. I mean hoop. I'm sorry, embroidery hoop to make one perfect stitches so they can make a good result. Yeah, not a myth at all. I get very sick after getting mine. My mother passed out the evening after getting her flu shot. Woke up under the table. Wow. I'm sorry about that. I mean, it's really not the best. I mean, I really understand that there's a discussion about the shot, but as the immigrant, I don't know if you have any friends who has immigrated to the U.S. with the green card. You have to, you have to go through the, you have to, of course, you have to make sure that you are vaccinated to all the disease CDC indicate, like all the disease CDC recommend to get a shot, we have to get it before we get approved for the green card. Well, that makes sense. And we have to go to the hospital, and there's a list of shots that we have to go through. If we can prove that we have done that, then we don't have to get those shots. But since I was like I had done that in Japan, it was more costly or more time consuming to get all the record from my hospital from 25 years ago, and then translate it, get a notary to do that, not only to prove that. So I decided, like, F it, I'm gonna get everything. So I think I did like 20 shots in one day. So after that, I kind of stopped caring. It's not good, I understand, but I would like to minimize the risk of being in this country. And if that's the shot, I kind of take it. If I were in Japan, I do not know if I became like that. But the immigrant has to kind of follow the government decision. So if CDC says that, okay, that's the thing we have to follow. So I understand there's so many opinions, and I really understand that the opinions, and I don't know about the risk and stuff like that, but we don't have choice sometimes. Oh, Sharon, thank you so much for bringing me back to that. Oddly, perfect stitches are less interesting. They could be made by machine. I much prefer the unique stitches that Unshi makes. You can tell so much about the stitches by looking at the stitches. Yes, stitches. When we make stitches without focusing on one stitch, as Sharon said, we can't really tell who he is. It's kind of scary though. Sometimes you can tell if, for example, let's say that a person's publish a book or person make a post about the Sashiko stitching, right? I sometimes feel that there's a little gap between what they say and what they stitch. So it's not criticism, it's just evil guessing. But some people may not stitch and then call themselves as a Sashiko teacher. Don't know, no proof, no nothing. It's just feeling. But stitches can really describe, tell the story about who they are. If they focus on one stitch by one stitch, they are kind of killing their personality. So it's not really possible to do it. But when they can stitch hours without thinking about the result, the stitches themselves start having the personality, which is you, which is the stitcher. So it is very, very, very interesting to understand that. And also, it also can explain the, like, I have a personality, but my personality changes every day based on the mood, based on, like, for example, today I don't have filters much because of my brains are kind of foggy. So I might be more direct, I guess, or problematic. Anyway, so stitches are gonna describe that as well. So I can really see what I'm doing or how I am doing by looking the stitches. So the reason I'm doing this 100 meters, 800 meters of Asanoho pattern is that in the trend of Sashiko being an art, I really do not know the definition of the art yet. And this is going to be very, very, very big discussion, so I'm saving it for the later. But when the Western people, well, when the people say that art, it is probably focusing on the focusing on the result of the patterns, result of the result outcome. How it looks is the one credential of the art, and there's I completely understand that. But at the same time, I learned that art can be some media vehicle to express one's feeling or opinion or idealism, stories. So this will be the one who carries my message that Sashiko is not about making the patterns. I mean, we enjoy the patterns, but the pattern is not the primary reason to stitch. Some people might make stitches on the patterns to hide something they like to hide, something they don't want to share. That's why they use the pattern to stitch. So those stories are there, and then I would like to make sure that I can add some stories to my 100 pieces of this fabric. I mean, if I stitch 100 piece of fabric over the live streaming, I am stitching. I'm not the I'm not somebody behind the screen typing all the time. I stitch as well. And I would like to be a stitcher all the time to keep this culture. I don't want to be somebody who does not stitch yet keep the culture. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm making a small hanafukin using hitomizashi. It's so slow. Yeah, it is. A lot of people who take my workshop experience the difficulty of stitching hitomizashi. Not a difficulty, hesitant. They prefer not to do hitomizashi. Like, as I don't really do hitomizashi much in the live streaming, many people prefer the running stitch more. But please try to use the same posture, same kata form, posture to the hitomezashi as well. So, according to the Japanese friend who took my class, they say that this posture can be used for the hitomezashi or actually in any other sashiko stitching, including kogging. So then they enjoy the increase of the speed of stitching. So try to keep that in your mind. It might be better for you, even for the hanafukin. It's the matter of the adjustment. It's the matter of just adjustment of the rhythm. But again, in comparison, of course, the hitomezashi is very slow. So it's not because of you. It's because of how it is. Helen, I'm so glad. If you can tell that hitomedashi is slower, it means that you're running on the stitching. That's very, very, very good news. See? It's a scary story, but a few years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I still had. Well, let me rephrase that. When I started teaching Sashiko in 2017, I kind of wondered if being Japanese may be the necessary criteria to fully understand this running stitch. Unshin? I mean, running stitch exists everywhere, so I'm not talking about running stitch in general. But the Sashiko running stitch, I wasn't sure if I could teach that to somebody who does not share the Japanese expectation, and I could. It was a very surprising. It was actually a good surprise that they could. It did not really matter what kind of background they have. It really matters who they are, but it's not really. The background does not really matter too much. And then later, I started wondering when I offered the first online Sashiko class, I was very, very, very much worried that if I could do that online, and I could, thanks to so many people who took it and so many people who tried to learn that. That's the actually, without them, I wouldn't be teaching at this moment. I would have to given up by now. So I'm glad and I'm very thankful for those who proved for me. They proved that non-Japanese can learn this running stitch even without meeting me. I mean, we will meet online, but that was a very, very big help. So I wasn't this confident a few years ago. Now I'm pretty confident. I even say that somewhere on my online class. If you cannot do it, I'll be there until you can do it. That's a pretty big statement. But I think I can do that. Unless one does not give up, they can stitch like I do. That's kind of minimum promise that I can make. If you want to make something my mother makes, Keiko makes, that's a little different story because that's not really Sashiko's issue. That's more like creativity issues. That's where the artistry kicks in. But if your goal is just enjoy stitching for the geometric patterns, I'm pretty confident that what I can do. Somebody said that only Japanese can learn this. Probably somebody from my artisans. We had many, many artisans and many, many opinions were there. And my grandma was inviting many foreign travelers to our shop. And she was sort of offering a very brief workshops to. My grandma did not want to share the core, but they wanted to teach some. It's really contradicting, but customized for the tourist, I guess. That's why we say that. And while one artisan teaching Sashiko to the non-Japanese, it's like 30 years ago, 25 years ago. Some artisans say that, well, they will never get that because they don't speak Japanese or they are not Japanese. By the way, those are the same people who told me that I will never get Sashiko because I'm not women. So there's a lot of criticism, there's a lot of scary talk, and it's not really you being the, or they being the foreigners or something. It was, as I always say, the Sashiko is the ordinary. So many people, like not many people, everyone in Japan did it probably at some point. But also there are many, many Sashiko artisans who had a pride in what they did. So it was more like a sacred place for those people. And they are all gone. they Anybody that's left? As long as I know, those scary artisans are all gone. I've been to quite many funerals for that because, yeah, they are. Hmm. Well, that's the cycle. They are the age of my great parent, great parent, great grandparents. But yeah, we have to keep the stories for that. It's not a criticism, more like it's the their honest feeling, I guess. But they will never say it outside. I wish we really can travel together to that age to get, like and watch it from the like. Let's say that I set up like a ring camera in the office and we watch that together. That's so. I don't want to say nasty, but very human-like. I don't really know the equivalent in the U.S. The United States. Correct me if I'm wrong, but being nice is one fundamental of this culture. You have to be nice. Seriously, like you have to be nice to live. I mean, there are many rude people, I guess, but the first requirement, first expectation people have each other is to be nice. It does not matter how actual people, how nice the person actually is. But to maintain the conversation, being nice is one thing. So I don't really see any nasty argument or conversation besides the social media. Of course there are. I mean there are. I just don't see that. I'm a foreigner. I am the foreigner here, so I don't have family in this state. So what I can see is my wife and my daughter, and we sort of prohibit to use those bad words as well, and we don't fight much anymore. We used to. So I don't see those things much, but at the same time, since the niceness is very important in this culture, I wonder if they really do that where everybody knows who they are. Like social media, we can fake who we are. So I understand that they say something nasty without introducing themselves. But in the real life, I wonder what it's like. It's gonna lead the question too. Those people who say those things, like whatever is fine. Like Sashiko has no rules, so whatever is fine. They say that so out loud on the social media, but I wonder if they can say the same thing in front of the Japanese Sashiko artisans. Is it because of the social media or because of the. Probably it's not because of the social media. Probably they will tell me what to do. It's so interesting to adjust myself. So the vehicle I have to adjust. The vehicle, how to communicate, how to teach, how to describe. Those are things I have to adjust to this culture with respect that this is the place I am living and I'm sharing my stories. But the contents of content that I'm sharing is very much opposite or completely different from the way I present. That's the very big key. I'm suffering, and probably many people misunderstand or get confused because of that. What is he saying? But therefore, like, no rules doesn't mean whatever. It's like rules does exist, but there is no such a thing as right or wrong. No rule means that no definitive rules. So I hope that one day, the stone I put in the big trend will be bigger than the one trend. Or probably not. I don't know. I don't know if that's my job or not. But at the same time, there's things I can do. So I will just keep putting those rocks, stones, so that we can decide what to do. See, I am mumbling tonight. If there's any topic you want me to talk about, let me know. My brain's pretty much fogged right now. I should be probably sleeping right now, but it's okay. I would like to make sure that I can have the first gathering. I would like to join that. I was very much looking forward to that. So I don't want to rewatch this live stream. I really do not rewatch my live streaming, but today's one is not gonna be the best one to rewatch. But how can when I like probably I mentioned about this last live streaming too, but I still am not getting it. How one can get? How can I? How can? I don't understand how one person can get the whole picture of foreign culture without learning the language or without living there or without talking to the people who live in that culture. I just don't get it. Like, what do you mean by not knowing the full? I said like Sashiko is insufficient, and they said like, what do you mean by insufficient? Like, what do you mean by that? You know everything sufficient. Reiko-san, hello. Oh, I don't know if I talked about it again, but there was a suggestion that I should use the complete or incomplete instead of insufficient. And I do not use the incomplete because if I use incomplete, I imply that there is something complete Sashiko. There is no complete Sashiko. We have to define what is the enough Sashiko for each of us. So interesting. So I will stop this live streaming after 30 minutes or so. I usually go until 10:30 Eastern time, but today I will finish it around 10:15 to have 15 minutes sort of break between the live streaming and for those who like to join the gathering. If you're new to that gathering, if you have not signed up the gathering, please fill out those. Like, there's not a form, it's like a register form on the website, on the description. And Michael, who might not be watching this right now, she might be busy preparing that. She will send you the link at 10:15 to those who are on the list. So if you sign up after 10:15, I'm sorry, I don't think I can get you the link. So make sure that you will sign up before that. The gathering starts at 10:30. I mean, you can come in anytime you want. You don't have to be there all the time. You don't even have to come even if you sign up. It's not like, school. You just have to. Oh, you're there. Maiko-san is there. So we really have, like, big thanks to her. She has been doing great amount of work to make it happen. Without exaggeration, without her, this is not happening. I can do it once, twice, probably 3 times. I've done that. But our goal is to make it monthly. And in order to do it, I wouldn't be able to do that. So it is still rare to find who can speak both Japanese and English, and then who are very much passionate about learning Sashiko. That's extreme. That's very, very rare. That's very rare. I mean, it has to be passion. It cannot be job because it does not pay, right? So it's kind of hobby, I guess, for that. It's more like a pro bono work. But since we can speak 2 languages without specific reason, we can get better job, or we can get better attentions by using these 2 languages. So there are not that many audience. Let me rephrase. Those who lives in the U.S., who immigrated to the U.S., who can speak both English and Japanese, who can sort of understand both culture and passionate about Sashiko. Those are very kind of important criteria. Like, for example, if I were not living in the US, I wouldn't be able to share this story this much because I wouldn't be able to realize how unique it would be. I did not realize that when I was in Japan. So, by the way, I may add one more thing. Who married inter interracial, across race or culture. I don't know who Maiko-san's husband is, but I believe that it was not Japanese. He was not Japanese, and I married to the I married to the Jewish person. So trying to understand and realizing how different it is, open up our world to learn more, and therefore I can share what Sashiko can be. Therefore, I can, if my goal is to get a fan or followers or audience, good audience, I don't want to say good audience, a bigger audience, I know what to say. I really know what to say. And they will be happy and they will get the instant gratification. They will, I don't want to say worship, but they will probably like what I say, because by doing that, they can get what Sashiko is very quickly. But I may have done that if I were not living in the US. I may have done that, or I probably have done that already when I was in Japan, to say something that Western people would like to hear. By living in the US, marrying to somebody non Japanese, I just realized that that's very, very, very shallow. It's gonna be very short term change. It's not gonna be there forever. So I may inspire somebody else, but that's it. It's not gonna be cultural protection or preservation. It's just one trend, and trend is already here. I think my goal is completely different. My job is completely different. And if I when I wanted the partner for that, I had to choose very carefully somebody who are like that too. There's so many good people, good friends with a lot of skills in our community, but they don't really. I mean, they are interested in speaking, learning Japanese language, but it's the privilege for us to be born as Japanese and privilege to be able to study English, to be able to speak. So it's a very good thing that we can offer this. I don't know if the person is watching this, but I got a question actually. I got a question about the is that okay to use the inspire to respect Sashiko? And I talked about it in my video titled Cultural Appropriation Sashiko, but in my opinion, one does not have to use the word inspired if they are willing to learn more. For that, if they are not willing to learn more, and then they decided to use inspired to sort of protect or even cover up what they do, then inspire is not going to be the silver bullet to excuse their appropriation. Yeah, so I always wonder what they are inspired by, from, with. The looks, culture, story. I really don't. The word inspired does not really specify what they are inspired by. So if you, of course, if they, of course, explain what they're inspired by, that's perfectly fine. But the word inspired is not gonna be the single like remedy for that issues. So my understanding, my opinion, they don't have to use the word inspired if they don't want to. Of course, they can use it if they want to, but the key is to the key is if they are willing to learn more or not, or even acknowledge it even if they don't like it. If that's the if that baseline is respected, I don't think they have to. I don't see the needs of using the word inspired. Just for those as the comment, as the reply to the comments, which I probably talked about it somewhere. I might be repeating the same thing today over and over. I'm sorry if you're here for a long time. Today's live streaming might be a little bit boring because I've been repeating the same thing. I'm trying to catch the phrase from my brain. Why did I do that? It's okay. It's okay. I am speaking. I'm not, I'm still here. The worst case scenario is me stitching while I am passing out, I guess. Or fainting. Like, well, that's not passing out then. I kind of have a history of me sleeping and stitching in the 24 hours live streaming. There was the moment that there was a 20 minutes or 25 minutes segment that I do not remember, but they kept commenting like, "Are you there, Atsushi?" Because I was stitching like this without talking at all for 20 minutes or 25 minutes. I don't remember. I was there. It's recorded. I think I was like sleeping kind of, or spacing out. I don't know how to call that. But since I've done it already, there's a possibility that I might do in English as well. So if that happens, don't worry about it. As long as the needle is moving, I'm here. I'm not. I don't need a medical assistant. Just wait for me to come back. I got a compliment. It's so great that you can do Sashiko stitching and speaking about the difficult topic in the foreign language. And she said that she doesn't know how I do it. Well, there's a trick here. Usually my brain is used to speak. 95% of my brains are occupied by the speaking. I don't really focus on stitching almost at all. So when my main brain got frozen, then I will stop talking. Yet my hands keep moving because that's a very like 5% of the brain. It's like, main program shut down, yet the minor programs working when the main programs got frozen. So today my main program is at the risk of getting frozen. But still, I think I will keep stitching. Whew. I don't know if it's okay to ask Michael-san here. Have you decided a theme yet? I think, I'm kind of, I oversee that. I supervise. According to the website, I oversee that. But it's kind of Maiko-san's project. The Gathering, okay? I'm sorry. The Gathering is Maiko-san's project. I trust her and I ask her to do that. So I didn't really ask for the theme tonight to discuss. Oh, kind of. Okay. So it's not okay. Oh, very, very simple one is probably good too. But it's very important to have something to discuss. The goal of this gathering is to create the atmosphere where they can feel Japan even without going to Japan. I don't know how. I don't know it. I don't know how we can achieve that goal. But since I keep saying that there's so much thing that I have to explain, I have to put it in the stories to explain the difference between Americans and Japanese culture or expectation. Well, you can say it here. One way to explain that is to create that atmosphere somehow. I don't know if I can do that, if we can do that. One of the most important thing about the Japanese communication is to read between lines. Guess what is not said. Guessing what is not said between the lines. So we have to really, really, really listen. We listen. That's one of the. If you need a husband, try to find a Japanese. That might be a good because we listen until the end. We don't really talk over somebody's conversation. It's not okay to do that, and it's linguistically it's impossible to do that. Impossible to do that. So we don't do pretty much anything after listening. We're just listening, just listening. We don't do anything after listening. We just listen. So it might not be good enough, but if the goal is to just listen, the Japanese are very good at it. Let me explain. Actually, this is very important to explain. But I will stop stitching because it's very difficult to stitch. Very difficult to explain while stitching. So English discussion, we can talk over, right? I've seen a lot of discussions talking over while somebody's talking their opinion. We can say over. Talk over is probably the way to say that. That is possible because of the grammar system. grammar system in English is pretty quite simple and quite well designed to find out what is the right and wrong. So in order to make a good discussion, we have to have always the subject, and after the subject we come verb. So who does what is always the beginning of the sentence. Not always, but we have to really define that first. We, like, the subject is always there. I have to define what I'm talking about. And then after the subject, we say what we do. I say, I deny, I agree, I object. Why am I always saying minus? I admire, I appreciate. Like those, verb comes right after the subject. So who does what is very clear for that matter. And you can deny that, like I do not deny is like you can deny the fact that you're denying. Yes. So it's understandable that we can talk over each other to have a mutual understanding. Japanese put the verb at the end of the sentence, and we sometimes do not say the subject. We do not sometimes specify the subject. We expect the others to read who is the subject and then put the verb at the end of the sentence. So it's like a lot of jargon and then verb at the end, which does not sometimes come with subject. So we have to guess who is saying that. And then because the verb comes last, the do or don't, so denying it or positive sentence, that will be defined at the end of the sentence too. So we don't really know if he's agreeing or not until we listen to the end of the sentence. You can change the whole sentence by saying don't or not in the end of the sentence. For example, I don't think I can create example, but the system from the system of the Japanese language, we can deny what we say at the end. Like we can deny the whole paragraph by saying not at the end of the sentence. So without listening to the others what they're talking about, the conversation will not really happen. And definition, because of that indirect conversation, definition is also sort of guessed. It's not really defined, it's just expected to have a mutual understanding without confirming that. It is very effed up. It's very difficult. It's not the best thing, but that's how we communicate it, and that's how we are trained to do that. So reading between lines, we have to imagine or follow the conversation a lot to see what they're doing. And that is that define the Sashiko as well. So it's almost impossible to understand it without learning the language. I am still learning both language and I still don't get it. But I don't want to just give up by saying, well, you have to study Japanese to fully understand what Sashiko is. That's very irresponsible. That's not responsible. That's my responsible for anybody who are willing to learn what Sashiko is to be able to learn that. So this gathering is one trial to make it happen. I don't know if it's gonna be good. I don't know how much work required to do that, but we will do that. Okay, 10 more minutes. If there's any specific topic that you want me to discuss, not probably today, but next live streaming, please let me know. If you're watching this from archive, please leave the comments so I can talk about it next week. If you don't know what I was talking about the gathering, there's a description. There's a link in the description. As long as you sign up before 10:10, like within 5 minutes or so, you should be able to get a link. After that, I cannot promise you will get a link. What else? I will be coming back next week as well. The gathering itself is monthly, so we will announce when is the next next gathering, which is gonna be in October, probably the middle or toward the end of October, because Maiko-san is a bit busy. But after that, we will have it every month, November, December. And live streaming. This live streaming itself is happening every Thursday night around this time, 9:30 Eastern time, and it does not change to those who are watching this live streaming from the U.S. Even if after the summertime is done, there's a time adjustment in November, right? That's gonna be a big adjustment for Japanese because 14 hours time difference is kind of difficult. 13 hours is also difficult, but 14 hours is a little more difficult because my morning is their midnight. My lunchtime is their like early morning, so it's really not the best time. But we will adjust that too. Helen, no, my pleasure. I will keep explaining that. But Japanese are very, as a language wise, it's very weird. But there's so many non-Japanese people. I don't know if I can define them non-Japanese, but there's so many, uh, let's say native Japanese people, non-native Japanese people who can speak like native in Japan. I know many people like that. They were not born in Japan. They just came to the Japan for the, university, or even after that, they can learn. They can be fluent in Japanese. So I once had a kind of excuse or something like that. One person got really upset that they did not have enough time to study Japanese to teach Sashiko. I understand that, and I'm not saying that everybody has to learn such Japanese to enjoy Sashiko, but for me, it's more like a commitment thing. I don't understand. This might be a strong sentence, but I simply don't understand if they are willing to spend their life into one thing so passionately. Why don't they learn about the other, like, around thing? And some people say the Japanese language is too difficult to learn. Yeah, probably, but it's the matter of time they invest into that. The fact that I can speak two languages is not because I'm genius or because I'm special. I was privileged. I was born in Japan, and I had I don't want to say good family, but I had enough background to come to here. I mean, I could study when I wanted to. I didn't have to work after the high school or work after the middle school. So I had an opportunity to study. So I was privileged. I am privileged for that. But again, if the purpose of the Sashiko is just enjoying, please don't worry about those things. That's why we offer the gathering, so you can, feel the Japanese community or how different Japanese can be, even in English. But I just simply don't understand why they don't really spend that much time in cultural perspective, language perspective, when they are trying to teach something so deeply related to the culture. Yeah, I always say that if one is, it's different, but if one is teaching about Dostoevsky, almost like talking on behalf of him about his work, let's say in English, one is teaching about Dostoevsky's life, philosophies, books, you know, there are a lot of things to discuss. If that teacher is the high school teacher who is introducing a book about, sorry, a book written by Dostoevsky, that's okay. You know, that's more like a guiding. But if one starts saying that I'm the professional, I'm the teacher of the, I can represent Dostoevsky, then it's sort of minimum requirement to be able to read Russian, because they are reading, if they cannot, they are reading somebody's translation. There's nothing wrong with that, but translated version is already somebody's translation. The second resource, second degree resource. Second degree, is that a first resource, second resource? So without the language of Japanese, without the ability of Japanese language, what they can learn about Sashiko is second information, translated, written by somebody who can speak English and Japanese. Hopefully, there might be somebody who is writing the book out of nowhere. That's out of question. That's completely out of question. So I just want them to know that. Some people find languages really difficult to learn. I have a friend who spent several months every year in Italy, loves Italian culture, and yet find, probably yes. But this is my belief. But if one person can speak one language, they can speak two languages too. And there are, of course, people who cannot speak the language well. But if they can speak one, if they can communicate, let's say, if they can communicate in one language, adding another language, like in that case, Susan's case, I hope that she's not really teaching about Italian culture, loves Italian culture. That's what they say. If she or he is teaching Italian culture on behalf of Italian people, then I think what she or he has to do is to live in Italy for 10 years to learn to even forget about their or her mother language. Did I learn English in high school? Yes. For that, yes. But I was not good enough to speak like this. It happens in the high school when I decided to study in US to get out from Japan. Anyway, language. Well, I still believe that if they live in Japan, they will be able to speak Japanese no matter how that person is difficult to learn that language. And besides that, I see that that's the lack of commitment. When they teach is the key word. When they practice, when they just like Sashiko, don't worry about it. The language is not difficult, I mean important. I'm talking about teaching on behalf. Like teaching as the guide, like school teacher, not really that thing. Like I'm talking about those who are teaching Sashiko as if they know everything about Sashiko by saying whole picture of Sashiko, and that's a completely different story. But I think that she can, well, it might be harsh to hear. It might be because I can speak. But at the same time, I did a lot of things too for this one. I did not do a lot of things for Sashiko, but I did a lot for English. So that commitment is not really shallow. And I sometimes feel that, I'm privileged for that. I am privileged. And privilege itself is not a good or bad. It's just privileged or not. The point is how we use that. How do we use that power? So, yeah, I hope that this will change somebody's mindset. Anyway, so thank you so much for watching this live streaming. It's 15 minutes to go to the 10:15. Again, don't get me wrong. Since you are learning, ongoing learning what Sashiko is, you don't even have to worry about the Japanese language. Therefore, we have this gathering after this. And even if you decided to teach about Sashiko, you do not have to really learn or master the language, Japanese language, because you will probably acknowledge what we do. And you can kind of say that if you want to hear stories, go to him, go to that. So you know what you teach. If you decided to teach and if you don't know anything about it, my point is that one cannot ignore if they don't speak that language. Sorry, one cannot ignore the people there if they don't speak that language. If they do it, that's culturally changing something very important. I think I'm saying that right. Well, I may have been harsh a little bit today because my brain's completely fogged, but I hope that my point was clear for that. Yeah, I hope yeah. All right, so I will see you next week around 10, not 10:30, 9 o'clock Eastern time. I will do the exactly same thing. I will talk about something. If you have any questions, if you have any topic request for me to talk about, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you later tonight or next week. Thank you so much. Bye bye.